Okay. Hey guys, what's up? So, I'm going to talk about this topic why we struggle to do what's important. We need to understand the psychology behind it before trying to find out the solutions. And most of the times, people don't even realize this is a problem and we need to find the solution for it. So, what do we feel on the first place? I'll do this later, let me scroll. I'm doing less important things first, keeping important one for later. So you're not alone. This is a common struggle in psychology. You think that the important thing needs its own time and you are kind of respecting it. In your random time, you're doing the random shit. If you're talking about psychology, we have to talk about Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. He introduced the idea that our mind is divided into three parts: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is driven by desires and seek immediate gratification, while the ego tries to keep us rational and focused on long term goals. This inner conflict is part of why we sometimes avoid tasks that are important. Our id prefers comfort and pleasure, while our ego tries to push us towards responsibility. We have talked about Skinner in the last video, in which he tells about operant conditioning. So it's about how we are motivated by rewards and consequences. The tasks we avoid don't provide immediate rewards, so the brain resists doing them. Think of how easy it is to scroll on social media, which offers quick dopamine hits, versus working on an important project that may only provide long-term rewards or may not. Kahneman, another great guy, talks about how the brain are wired for present bias. We naturally prioritize things that bring immediate satisfaction over tasks that promise future benefits. That's why it's so hard to focus on long-term goals. So the role of self-doubt and procrastination. Albert Bandura, he's introducing the concept of self-efficacy, which is our belief in our ability to succeed. When we doubt ourselves, we often avoid the task altogether. If you don't believe you can do something well, you're more likely to procrastinate, even if that task is important. Pikel is a leading expert on procrastination. He argues that procrastination is less about laziness and more about emotional regulation. When we face tasks that seem overwhelming or stressful, we procrastinate to avoid the negative emotions associated with them, even if we know the task is essential. Now, I want to move a little bit on the philosophical side of it too. Aristotle, the great one. He says the struggle isn't just psychological. Philosophers have been talking about it for centuries. Aristotle coined the term Akrasia, which refers to the state of knowing what you should do but failing to do it. It's like having all the right intentions but being unable to act on them. A problem that's as old as time. Nietzsche, another great man. He explored the conflict between our higher goals and the base desires through the concept of the will to power. He suggests that part of the reason we avoid what's important is that our higher ambitions are constantly fighting against our lower, more immediate desires. The will to power is a drive to overcome this, but it's not always easy to master. Kierkegaard, why we choose comfort over importance. In this chapter, the Kierkegaard plays an important role. He argued that we experience existential anxiety when faced with big important decisions or tasks, leading us to avoid action. The more significant the task, the more overwhelming it feels, which can result in procrastination or avoidance. Sartre spoke about bad faith, where we deceive ourselves to avoid responsibility. This is when we come up with excuse for not doing something important, convincing ourselves that it's okay to avoid the task. This form of self-deception keeps us stuck in inaction. Heidegger's philosophy is very important and it's one of the favorite of mine. It is the philosophy of being toward death. Reminds us that the recognition of our mortality should motivate us to focus on what's important. Yet, many of us choose to ignore this reality, leading to procrastination and avoidance. We become too comfortable in our everyday routines, avoiding the existential urgency of doing what truly matters. That's all, yaar. Now, how to overcome these I don't want to talk about all this. I don't इतनी सारी YouTube videos पढ़ी हैं इसके बारे में. There are a lot of YouTube videos available on this topic. We all struggle with avoiding important tasks. This is not just a you thing, but understanding the psychology behind helps us tackle it. So I think this is not enough. This is just a gist of what is the documentation that is available for us to tackle the situations like these, but we can get started from this point on.